The first cramp came with the dawn, a serpent coiling in the pit of my belly. I was 15, a child by any measure, save the one that mattered. I was a wife, and I was in labor. The rushes on the floor, once sweet with the scent of meadowsweet, now seemed to hold the damp, metallic tang of fear. My husband, a man whose face I could barely recall in the dim light of the solar, was away at the Scottish border, his name a heavy cloak I'd worn for a year. Lord Beaumont, a stranger who had planted a seed in me and then ridden away, leaving me to this terrifying harvest. The room was a cage of tapestries, their woven huntsmen and ladies, a silent, mocking audience. Outside, the wind howled around the stone keep, a mournful chorus to my own silent screams. My mother-in-law, Lady Eleanor, entered without knocking, her face a mask of grim duty. She was a woman carved from the same unforgiving stone as the castle walls, her eyes the color of a winter sky. "It begins," she stated, not a question, but a verdict. Behind her, two serving women scurried in, their arms laden with linens, their faces a mixture of pity and morbid curiosity. They called me Lady Isabel, but I was just Isabel, a girl from the sun-drenched fields of Aquitaine, sold for a title and a tract of land I'd never see. My French was a source of amusement to the gruff northern court, my songs and stories a frivolous distraction. They had wanted a broodmare, a vessel to secure the Beaumont line, and now the time had come to prove my worth. The midwife, a woman named Agnes, was summoned. Her hands were gnarled as oak roots, her eyes holding the wisdom of 1,000 births and 1,000 deaths. She smelled of herbs and something else, something acrid and unsettling. "The babe is not returning, my lady," Agnes murmured, her touch surprisingly gentle as she prodded my swollen abdomen. "We must pray it comes forth without mischief." Mischief, a quaint word for the tearing, the bleeding, the screaming agony I had heard whispered about in the servants' quarters. The stories of women who went to the birthing bed and never left, their bodies broken, their souls flown. I had been married at 14, a political pawn in a game I didn't understand. My mother had wept at the wedding, her tears a silent warning I had been too naive to heed. She had pressed a small silver locket into my hand, a relic of a saint said to protect women in childbirth. I clutched it now, its cool metal a stark contrast to the fire spreading through my veins. Hours bled into one another, each contraction a wave that threatened to drown me. The room grew thick with the smoke of incense and the scent of my own sweat. Lady Eleanor sat by the fire, her knitting needles clicking a relentless rhythm, a metronome marking the slow, agonizing passage of time. She offered no words of comfort, only the occasional sharp command to the servants. "More wine," she would snap, or "Stoke the fire, you witless girl." I was a spectacle, a performance she was overseeing with a critical eye. The pain was a living thing, a demon with claws and teeth. It ripped and tore at me, pulling me down into a dark, swirling abyss. I screamed until my throat was raw, the sound swallowed by the thick stone walls. In the haze of agony, I saw my mother's face, her eyes filled with a desperate, helpless love. I remembered her stories of the saints, of the Virgin Mother who had borne a child in a humble stable, her pain a holy offering. But there was nothing holy in this. This was brutal, final, a battle for survival in a world that saw me as nothing more than a vessel. "Push, child, push." Agnes's voice was a rough rasp in my ear. "You must help the babe find its way." But I had no strength left. I was a ship dashed against the rocks, my will shattered into 1,000 pieces. The hidden truth, the one no one ever spoke of, was that this was not a miracle. This was a butchering, a sacrifice on the altar of lineage and inheritance. I was not a mother to one. I was a lamb to the slaughter. Then, a change in the rhythm of the pain. A new, terrifying sensation of being torn asunder. Agnes's face grew grim. She whispered to Lady Eleanor, the words a death knell. It comes into the world feet first. A flurry of activity. The serving women's faces paled, their pity replaced by a stark, naked fear. Lady Eleanor's knitting needles fell silent. She rose and came to the bedside, her eyes for the first time holding something other than cold disdain. It was not compassion. It was a flicker of something darker, something I couldn't name. "You must turn it, Agnes," she commanded, her voice low and urgent. "Do what you must." The midwife shook her head, her gnarled hands trembling. "It is a great risk, my lady, for the child, and for her." "The child is a Beaumont," Lady Eleanor said, her voice like flint. "It will be born. Do it." The plot twist was not that the baby was breached. The twist was in my mother-in-law's eyes, the dark secret I had been too naive to see. She had also been a child bride. She had also been brought to this cold northern heat, a stranger in a strange land. She had also faced this terrifying ordeal, but she had survived. And in her survival, she had been forged into something hard and unyielding. She was not my enemy. She was my future. Agnes's hands, slick with oil, reached inside me. The pain was beyond anything I could have imagined. It was a white-hot fire, a blade twisting in my womb. I screamed, a long, keening wail that was not just my own, but the scream of every young girl who had been forced into this brutal, unforgiving world. I felt a tearing, a searing agony that I was sure would be my end. The room swum before my eyes, the tapestries and the faces of the women blurring into a kaleidoscope of color and shadow. And then, a new sound, a thin, wavering cry, the cry of a newborn babe. Through the haze of pain, I saw Agnes holding a small, blood-streaked boy. She said, "A boy, a son for Lord Beaumont." The climax was not the birth itself. It was the moment that followed. Lady Eleanor took the child, her movements surprisingly gentle. She wrapped him in a clean linen and brought him to me. She laid him on my breast, his small, searching mouth finding its purchase. And as I looked into his tiny, wrinkled face, I saw not a Beaumont, not an heir, but a part of myself, a life that had been bought with my own blood and pain.
The ending was not a happy one. It was a resolution born of tragedy and survival. I had lived, but something within me had died. The girl from Aquitaine, the one who sang songs and told stories, was gone. In her place was a woman, a mother, a survivor. I looked at Lady Eleanor, her face softened in the firelight, and I saw not a monster, but a mirror. We were two sides of the same coin, two women bound by the same cruel fate. The room was quiet now, the only sounds the crackling of the fire and the soft, rhythmic sucking of my son. The storm outside had passed, and the first rays of the morning sun were filtering through the arrow-slit window. A new day, a new life. But for me, it was the beginning of a long, slow day. I had done my duty. I had produced an heir. I had secured the Beaumont line. But in doing so, I had lost myself. I was no longer Isabel. I was Lady Beaumont, the mother of the heir, a title that was both a crown and a cage. And as I held my son, I wept, not for joy, but for the girl I had been, and for the woman I had become. The terrifying truth was not in the pain of childbirth, but in the silence that followed. The silence of a life that was no longer my own.